that otherwise it's sort of like an unfair take on atheism. So like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think everyone's like, oh no, I don't have something to fall back on if they're atheistic. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that Mike White brought it up, and I'm glad that he didn't land on her being like, oh no, I have no belief system. This is awful.
I do want to say one thing about Kate too, because I think that of the three of them, Kate was the most other-centered, I would say. I would say that Jack and Lori were both pretty self-centered at time, and it could cause conflict. I think it was interesting to see Kate, who, yes, is a Trump supporter, probably, not be villainized and to show the really great traits that she has. Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Dr. Kay. Feel free to check in and take a seat wherever you like. We're going to be going our way over to Thailand for the White Lotus finale, and we're going to recap it.
We are. Yes.
I'm so excited.
The big, bold, the beautiful. I think because this season in particular had a little Southern charm connection that I think we all found out about. I think it's particularly connected, though we'd probably do it anyway, even if it were not connected to Southern charm.
So true. Like we did Bridgerton, for example. It was like a little foray outside of the reality TV world, but you're so right. We definitely have a clear connection with the Ratliffs, so I'm into it.
Yes.
And also, just real quick, we are psychotherapists, but not your therapists or the therapists of people on the show. And this is not reality TV, so it's even easier to imagine. We don't actually give therapy to Victoria. You know, take our comments about mental health and diagnosis loosely with grains of salt, with grains of salt, because we can't assess them personally because they don't exist. So, fun fact. I will also say, we're going to have another episode next week where we're going to have about White Lotus, where we're going to talk about our top 5 moments from the whole season. So this will get us through the ending that just happened, because that's what everyone's thinking about and buzzing about, is the one we just watched. And then next week we'll be able to kind of go back and think globally and reflect on what stuck with us weeks later.
So excited. Cannot wait to go into that top 5. It's been a hell of a season, a very memeable season, I would say.
Yes. I've seen some really funny ones. I love the one of Victoria when she's hearing about the time at the monastery and her face is like delighted that she was right. So someone was like, anytime I'm right, anytime I send you this, it means I knew I was right.
Yes. I thought her name was Piper. Or who's Piper?
Piper's the daughter.
Oh,
the mom's name is Victoria, but the mom's real name is Parker. So that makes it confusing.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
Parker Posey.
Parker Posey, Piper, daughter, Victoria. Yes, she was incredible. I would love to be Victoria's therapist. That sounds very fun. Lorazepam.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's so true. I have some, we'll come back to her, but I love Parker Posey so much. Like, she was in Dazed and Confused. Did you watch Dazed and Confused, that movie?
I think so. Many a moons ago.
She's a camp counselor.
High school,
okay, yeah. So it sort of didn't stick with you as well. Yeah. I watched it a lot continually, pretty much. Also like Fast Times and some of the other ones, Dazed and Confused. No, I mean, How American Summer. She's a camp counselor and like a dick. And it's fantastic. And then she was in the Christopher Guest movies like Best in Show and all that. And I just I'm obsessed. I've been obsessed with her for many years, Party Girl and so forth. So to see her in this, I just was like, all my favorite things coming together. And she was had a fabulous role. Did you see, sorry, I have one more thing. I just have to really quickly rattle off.
Of course.
I was thinking about like who is the like main focus of the season. Like obviously Rick and Chelsea seem to be like the big plot line, because always it's who dies, right? Like that's important. And sure enough, like in the cast art, they are centered and then like forward. So that makes sense together, which I love. It's not just Rick. But I also noticed in the cast artwork, it's like one of them at least, where they center people. They also centered Parker Posey in front of her like group.
Oh.
And they also centered on the other side Michelle Monaghan as Jacqueline amongst her group, which I guess makes sense because she's the most famous of the 3 friends. And then they also had
I think the other one who was in Zone of Interest, the one who was the lawyer, I actually think she had kind of more of an arc than Jacqueline.
Lori had way more of an arc. Yeah,
Lori,
yeah. She's great. She's also a New Yorker in the show and stuff. She's fabulous. I loved her character and her plot line way more myself as well. So that was weird to me that Michelle Monaghan was sort of the forward of that group. That's why I was like, maybe because she's the most famous of the group, because I don't know otherwise.
Yeah.
And also, at least it wasn't Kate, who's the Trump supporter. Why is the person whose name is mine is Trump supporter? Sorry, that was
not
yelling.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm not happy.
No, it's not fair. But actually, I think that zone of interest person, maybe she wasn't when she was filming, but she had a hell of a year because she's been in a few banging movies. Zone of Interest, and then one other one that was based on some sort of play that my partner knew and I did not know, that I'm forgetting.
Was she in the Gilded Age too? I feel like I saw her in a commercial for that. I don't know.
She might have been. She's kind of had a heck of a year, which is cool. I love seeing women who are not like 20, like taking off. I think it's really rad.
Yeah, same. I totally agree. It's so nice to like know Carrie Coon. Okay. It's so nice to know that you don't have to like be the like, 14-year-old entering into the field type of thing that, and also I think women in particular are seen as more beautiful later in the years than they used to be, which is also lovely.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I actually think
she is in Gilded Age. She is in Gilded Age.
Oh, yeah. She's all over the map.
All over.
I actually think that the Schwarzenegger kid had the biggest arc
of the Ratliffs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of do. Mm-hmm. I felt like he was actually the most developed character in that. But so was
Lockie, I feel like, too. Like, Lockie wasn't developed because he's not developed. Like, because he's still young and he's still figuring himself out and he's a people pleaser. Yeah. But I think he also had quite a big arc. Like, died, came back, and also had, like, true. We learned a lot about his people pleasing ways and so forth.
This is true. It's interesting that two of the siblings got centered. I didn't really feel like Piper, now that I got much of an arc at all. I didn't really understand her character. And I wanted to. I genuinely wanted to understand her, and I don't feel like I did.
Yeah. I have one more thing I'll add about that when we get to that part of the finale. But I agree. Like, she was underutilized. And that was the big problem, right? Is like they didn't have enough room for how many people they were trying to explore, which totally. I have another thought about as well, but we'll get there.
Yes.
Like, I think, it's there. That is the biggest probably critique. I want more. That's not a problem.
Yeah, just more. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And people have been saying that this is the weakest season. I don't know. I don't really care. I genuinely enjoy watching every season of this show. And so we could split hairs about what's the best and what's the least. But I want him to keep making this for as long as he wants, because it's just a pleasure to watch, in my opinion.
It's such a pleasure. I love it. Yeah, I love this season. I mean, I don't even think, like you said, I love that. We don't need to rank order or like decide based on whatever. It doesn't need to be what's the best and worst. They're all good and bad. They all have good things and bad things with them.
Right. I was listening to a podcast today that pointed out some of the plot flaws, and I agree with like that. They just didn't quite
like things that weren't resolved. Yeah.
Yeah. One of which I was like, I had noticed at the time. I was like, what? And the other ones I was like, oh yeah, you're right. That never really turned into anything. So there was a lot that they put out there, and not everything got its due, if you will.
Yes.
But we can talk about that,
I think
too.
Well, and that's a perfect way to leave off, because that relates to my first point when we start the recap. So maybe we'll just do a quick check-in if you would like to do that, and then we'll get right into that point again.
I love it. What is my check-in for this week? Let's see. I loved finishing White Lotus. I was out of town last week in DC. Oh, that's what I'll check in about. I love going to DC. Well, it's hard because what I do there is annoying, but getting easier, I guess. But what I really like about going there is I now have a routine where I see certain friends on certain nights, and we kind of do the same thing every single time. It's like I see my one friend Wednesday night. Then, maybe go out to dinner with my partner Thursday night. Then Friday night, a group of us get together. And then Saturday, we all go and watch movies all day at a theater called the AFI. And it's just like a really fun way to I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like a lot of work, but it's really fun to, after that work, get to like see people. And I find routines to be very grounding. So I just like going there and getting to see my people. It's great.
And relationships also grounding, to be in relationship connection. Love that. And also people far enough away, like it's an 8-hour drive or something. It's not easy to just pop down and see them. So to have it be needed is a delight.
It's a huge privilege that now we get to do this 3 times a year. And granted, it involves a lot of work before, but then when I get there and I see them, it's just like, it's because adult friendships are hard and you have to keep up with people. And it's nice to be able to do that through this position. So I'm grateful for that.
I love that. That's so nice. What a lovely privilege indeed, but also just like joy. What a joy.
It is. It's really nice. It's soul affirming.
Soul affirming. Great phrase. Or like, I guess like 2 words. Great. It's a compound word?
Yeah. Yes. What about you, dear Dr. Kay? What is on your mind and heart this week?
Well, there's 2 things, I guess, sort of. Yeah. One is the concert, which I'll just say the concert that I organized that was like really fun and went well. It did not go well organizing it. That's why it was like a baby resistance that we were able to have it despite the efforts of the oppressive systems around us. So I was very happy it went without a hitch. And like you said, thank you for that phrase. I think it did mostly. And yeah, I felt good about it. I was like relieved. I fell asleep so quickly when I got home. I had this whole plan. I had a bottle of Veuve at home to have with my husband, and then I like fell asleep in my chair before we even had it. So it's actually still in the fridge.
I was looking forward to you getting that bottle. Yeah. I'm sad that didn't happen for you.
I know. I kept waking up and being like, I want to have it, and he kept being like, but you're sleeping. I'm like, I know, and I want to have it. So I just saved it. We'll have it soon. We still haven't had it yet, but it was great. It was still nice. We still were talking a lot first and talking like processing it. So it was fun. And then our local paper wrote about it too, which was cool. So then I got to think about it again the next couple of days, which is nice. Last but not least, I got my lip ring, like my lip pierced today, and now I have like a hoop in it. So if you're watching the video, that's what that is. That's not food.
It looks awesome.
Yes, I love it a lot. It's really like, it was a little bit impulsive, and I liked that so much because it's been so long. It's been like 20 years since I had a new piercing. And also I was like, I was thinking about our generation and how like even like a lot of people have sleeves and how like you can be professional and have bod mod. And so I feel like maybe when I was going through my training, I would have been a little bit more nervous about having something on my face, but I really am not now. So I was like, fuck it. Here we go. Didn't even tell my husband.
License.
Yeah. I got my license. Exactly. Try to stop me now. I also have my doctorate. Can't take that from me.
Right. Nope.
So I didn't even tell my husband. I just like went and did it midday. I got home and he was here and he was just sort of like, I was like, yep, yeah, I got it pierced. So he loves it. He thinks it's sexy. Thank you.
Yay. You look fabulous. And the concert was awesome. And yes, both things are great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's fucking get this thing going. I'm excited. It's like hard not to be thinking about it. I mean, because we're about to talk about it probably, but also there's just lots of little like pieces that have such interesting like threads with itself and then with things outside in the world, because the like liberalism, the like friends that have different political views and stuff like that. I will say we do know that what's his name, Mike White, who's the writer and director, we know that he has said out loud in press that he purposely was trying to make this one about spirituality and religion. So we know that's a theme that was intentional. So one of the questions we're going to ask ourselves as we go through the recap is, where are the threads that are like the ending threads, the big bang that he ends with around religion and spirituality? So when we see that, we'll sort of bring it up. The other questions we're going to ask are, where are there moments where we might have wanted them? Well, first it was like, what are some of the psychological themes that we are noticing as psychotherapists and clinical and counseling psychologists and licensed and so forth? So what are we noticing about mental health themes as we go through? And then also, where do we think they could have done more about it? So like psychological concepts they could have added. Or you could also think of it as our normal segment about what do we wish people knew more about? That's another way of putting it.
Love. So excited to get in there.
So that's how we'll do the segments. So we're not doing segments. We're doing 3 questions. So where I wanted to start was we return to how we start the episode is related to what you were saying about resolution, because literally the first message of the finale is the monk telling us about the fact that we wake up with an edgy energy. We're thinking about what's in store. We try to solve it, and that our trying to solve it is what makes it harder for us. We have more anxiety. So he basically says we all want resolution, but the only way to not suffer because of that is to let go of that, because actually there is no resolution to life's questions. So like, I was kind of like, when I've been hearing these critiques about the fact there were things that weren't resolved, I was like, isn't that the point? Like that was the whole point. Yeah. Like the whole opening note was about like, you're all going to want resolution, but like, I'm going to let you be curious about it. Because I love when people do that, and they do that intentionally all the time. People do that where they'll be like, here's a thing that you get to imagine now because I'm taking off, like I'm gonna stop now with writing this plot line or whatever. So the things I also wrote like a little list of things that didn't have resolution, I thought, and I just there were sort of things that either I just didn't give a fuck about, or things where I was kind of like, I like that we get to imagine that. So I thought the fact he started with that message was powerful.
Yes, and probably speaking to the audience. I do think there are some things where it's like ambiguous lack of resolution is my favorite kind of ending. I hate an ending that's like tied in too neat of a bow because it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
There were certain things where it felt maybe like more amiss somewhere or something than the lack of resolution thing. But yes, I'm excited to go through these and talk about them.
One thing that won't come up, for example, is that they cut a scene, or they cut like a whole plot line about Lori, because Lori has a gender diverse child, and they cut it because they cut it when Trump was inaugurated. They cut it purposely because they were like, now it's too important and we can't do them a justice. So like we have to take it out because we won't be able to, it's too complicated and too much we have to do to really do it justice. And we don't have time for that in the show. And now that Trump's inaugurated, it's even more important. So like, so that's shitty.
That is very shitty. The other one I was thinking, do you remember when the Trump, I guess Kate's her name, but now that you said that, I remember her name. Do you remember when she went to breakfast and saw Victoria and was like, we had a baby shower together or whatever. And then that just never came up again. That felt like it was going to become something. And it was just left it like genuinely, not just like a false start of a plot line. It felt like... And this is the podcast that I said today, noticed this one. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. Because that was really interesting and charged. And they just kind of dropped it in a way that I thought was kind of weird. But,
yeah. I saw it as like it was giving us a chance to see how Victoria hates socializing. Like she's in the social elite, but she doesn't like, you know, like if she doesn't know who you are, she's not going to like give you the time of day. Like she hates the people on the boat. She hates the people, you know, it's like whatever, like that's sort of like her shtick. And so I felt like it gave us a chance for us to understand that about Victoria, because all she had to do was be like, oh yeah, great. It's great to see you. But instead she was like, you know, like she was so rude. And so it gave us like insight, I think, into her character in particular. But I also felt like Kate was the one who was like looking at them and like wanted to almost like seeing how close the kids were and stuff. Like I feel like she was wanting that like energy a little bit. And so like then the fact she got like blunted on that had a ripple effect for the friends too. Like, so I think there was like little bits of it that had little ripple effects that were subtle, but I agree they never talked about it again. Like Kate didn't try again to talk to them or, you know, and Victoria didn't talk about it again.
I can totally see that. I think for me, it felt a bit more intentionally charged than that. I like the
character
subtle ripple
building
effect. Yeah, it felt like this is going to be something between these people. And then it was just dropped. It felt significant.
Maybe it was that they had to have a reason why. Maybe they used it as a reason why those groups never connected. Because like in some ways you would think because there's like Piper and there's like, and then also the Saxon who would like clearly be interested in the celebrity or whatever. Like maybe it was like a way of being like, this is now why we're going to keep them separate, even though they end up on the boat together at the end, or even though we see them like at similar places. This is why they don't ever connect again, is because there was a weird moment at breakfast.
Yeah, it could be. Could be.
Because I agree. Like it did feel like there might be some follow through on it. I don't know. It's one of the ones I didn't really mind. I kind of was like, I don't really care enough about it. But it's also possible they had a scene they cut. Like it seems like they cut a lot. So we'll talk about one of them a little bit later too. But yeah, exactly.
And that would have given us more insight to Victoria potentially. Like if there was this rift or rupture, like understanding what that was about, I think would have been really interesting.
I thought she just didn't remember her. You felt like there was a rift?
I felt like it was more than not remembering. To me, I felt like she did remember and was like, I don't want to
pretending she didn't. Yeah. I feel like she's meant to be like a snobby elite. Like somebody who feels like I don't need to like, because she's the one who's like, we're so like rich and famous. Like she's like real, you know, like she feels like there's no, even the old kings and queens didn't live as good as we do. Like I think that version of an elite person, I could see her character being the one that shows the version that's like not even entertaining somebody who's not in that circle or whatever. I felt like that was the part we were getting to know about Victoria that's not like the rest of her family. But yeah, it's true too. Like it almost seemed weird to the kids too. So like then that doesn't make sense unless there's something else. Who said it? One of them was sort of like, Mom, what? And then
that was really rude. Yeah, that was rude. It might have been Lachlan but I'm not sure. Yeah. Or Piper.
Piper. I was thinking that too.
That's her name. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that's fair though. Like, yeah, if she was hiding some other rift too, then that would be fucking annoying to not come back to that.
Yes. But the other ones, I see there's
things we did have, things we did include. Yes. So we returned to everyone's subplots. at the beginning of this. So first it's like the monk talking. There's no resolution to life questions. So then they start rattling off the like, here's where we are with everybody. We know Rick. They start with Rick. He clearly didn't cheat on Chelsea because they're showing him waking up in a chair alone in the room, fully clothed. Comes out to Frank stabbing a homemade dummy. Rick leaves despite Frank trying to stop him, and also the two ladies who got off the elevator trying to stop him. And then they go into the hotel room together, the three of them, and Rick leaves. Guy Talk and Mook, we flash over to them. We start to really see clearly that Mook isn't interested if Guy Talk isn't going to be like a motivated or even violent person. But when he says he might be able to find the thieves, she gets excited again. So then she's reinitiated with him or reignited. Jackie comes out to Kate reading on the couch of the three friends, offers to go ask Lori about the breakfast. So that tells us that like she's trying to like repair with Lori, finds her passed all the way out. I was worried Lori wasn't there, right? I think that was purposeful. The way they showed her on getting in the cab and we don't see her again until she's found by Jackie. I was like, what if she's not in there? She was sleeping very heavily. And Jackie's like, hey, I'm sorry, you know, and Lori's like, not right now, basically, because she's tired and sleeping and also contemplating something. Like we see like her wheels turning. She's definitely stressed out because last night sucked for her. But we can tell she's contemplative as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. By the way, that was another thing I felt was left untouched was the thieves. Like they just get to go, which is something we'll talk about because I actually do get why they get to just go and be fine. Mm-hmm. But also Lori saw the shit they stole in his room. We never hear twice about that. Like why would that guy have that stuff? It was like the gold stuff and like the bracelet and thing. So it's like weird we see her like clock it as she gets out of the window or whatever. Did you notice that? It was like on the bureau.
I didn't actually, but as you're saying it, I do. Oh, that's a nice detail.
Right. And I love that they included it. I was like, how smart. Like, what a cool thing. Mm-hmm. Like, what a neat idea. But like, she might not have known it was from the store. So she might have just thought it was weird. But then at least I feel like we should have heard that. I don't know. But yeah, that got left undone too, which is kind of fun. We get to decide what happened. Mm-hmm. Then Piper and Lachlan, or Lockie, get home. Piper asks Parker asks Piper how it was. Piper says, let's just talk about it later. Then Parker Posey asks Lachlan. So Victoria asks Lachlan, her son. It's like, okay, but then tell us, Lockie. Like, you know, assuming that she can at least get Lachlan to tell her because he's the people pleaser in the family. He gets exasperated and says, I don't know, okay? And so to those of us who have been clocking his, you know, people-pleasing tendencies throughout that season, we're like, look at this moment, this little grain, this little seed of a rebellion. So we see where that leads, unfortunately, but it was a good moment. And then Belinda sees Ponchai at breakfast while she's with her son. The son kind of like pokes fun at them like in a playful way. And she's just sort of like, I don't know how I feel about him, basically. And he's like, well, he likes you. And then they talk about the business.
I thought their relationship was really cute, Belinda and her son.
I loved it. I loved the two of them. Mm-hmm. They were so great. They were so funny. I really liked Zion, and he really had a very small part, but I liked him a lot. I'll finish just this one about the Piper telling about the monastery, and then we'll switch on over. So Perfect. Piper then tells mom and dad about the monastery. And this scene is like so rich with facial expressions. Like the facial expressions are everything. I literally was like, I just kept like laughing and being like, this is the best scene. I just kept saying that to my husband. I was like, this is the best scene. So like Parker Posey, like gold star for the scene, major. But so same thing with Jason Isaacs. His faces were great. So it starts with Piper being like gently positive about it, giving some praise. He's like, that's great that you can live without money, because he'd love that if they could just be okay with him not having money. Then Piper suddenly breaks down with the truth that she does need the comforts like air conditioning and food that's organic and more tasteful. She hates the fact that she needs those comforts, and she hates the fact there are people who don't get access to what they get access to. So like, you know, it's like, yeah, a specific kind of privileged youngster who like, you know, wants to be able to prove that they can live like those who are less fortunate. And yet like, even just that as an issue is like already problematic. And then the way that, so whole thing. And then, so along the way during that, Parker Posey's face just gets like better and better and like happier and happier. And then eventually she does like empathize first, where she's like, I'm so sorry, honey. You know, she's like feeling for her, but she's also gleeful, of course. And she ends up saying like, I get it. Like no one in the history of the world has lived as well as we have and has lived better, which is so wild. And then she says, well, therefore it would be offensive not to enjoy it. Every bit of our privilege. So then it ends with her hugging Piper, which is very cute. And I rewatched it to be able to do the notes. So there were little things I noticed the second time that I didn't notice the first time. And one of the things I noticed this time was that she did really hug Piper first. Like she didn't go right to the thumbs up. She like held her and like felt badly for, you know, she like was trying to comfort Piper for real at first. And then she sort of like turns to Jason Isaacs, to Tim, her husband, and like gives him the thumbs up. Like, we're good. Like, you know, it's so funny. And his face was so great too. It was just so good. Gold acting, gold star.
So rich. And I feel for her because as the Buddhist monk said, like a lot of American kids seem to come there because they feel a sense of emptiness from capitalism. And she's kind of facing two opposing forces. She doesn't feel comfortable in the life that she has, and yet she can't quite give it up. So she's kind of, what do they say? An act, and therefore from Buddhism, she's in a prison of her own making, right?
Yes,
which is very fitting as a spiritual theme.
It means like turn the banana, change your perspective, and it will change, the outcome. Because I think she is too comfortable almost, which makes her worry psychologically that she's so comfortable in it or something. Yeah. So she can change her perspective perhaps without changing her lifestyle. But I do think it's a noble venture, but I agree that it's one that's typically I agree with the fact that it was important how the monk brought up the emptiness, but it's also like a typical journey, I think, for young, especially American kids, where it's like on like empty advocacy, like it's on like empty saviorism problems.
Yes.
And appropriation.
A very relatable American sort of story that she went through, and now she's realizing, I think, that she'd rather be rich, which is its own set of things. And it's like, because I think capitalism causes people to live in extremes, right? I'm either this or I'm giving it all up, right? Those are two pretty intense extremes. She could probably find a middle ground that's a little more like authentic to who she is and doesn't feel like such a major shift. But I don't think she's there yet. And I hope she gets some good therapy and can get there.
Yes, they have resources for therapy. Do the therapy.
Yes,
I love it.
Indeed. But is it my turn? Yes,
it is now. Yay!
So Lockie and Saxon finally talk about it. So Saxon says to Lockie, "No one's going to make you a man. Okay, you got to do it yourself," which is a weird thing to say.
Yes, it's so funny, and also like. It's so like gendered, problematic. Like, so I think Tim's role, like as the dad, is problematically gendered. Obviously, he's like the one who has to save the family, or has, so he like that's like a lot of gender role stuff. But yeah, Saxon too. Like, no one's gonna make you a man. You have to make yourself. When Saxon had spent the whole beginning of the vacation like telling him what to do and telling him how to be a man and how to, and now he's like, you got to do it yourself, which is crazy. But then also, like jerk yourself off is like the underlying current to like the way that also is there. Like, I think that's funny as well.
Yep. And poor Lockie offers to join him in the pool, but Saxon plans to read. I saw a discourse online that Lockie's like a sociopath or whatever. I don't think that's a fair read of his behavior.
Why?
I think it's because he lied about remembering. And it's like he said he didn't remember what happened the previous night when maybe he did remember jerking off his brother.
No, he remembered while he was in the monastery. Yeah,
right.
They showed him having a memory and he was like, fuck.
And he didn't quite want to sit with it. Right. It was more complicated than that. And also, it's, I don't know, it's kind of an unsavory.
Also, lying isn't necessarily sociopath. Yeah. I think the problem is he's like it's like the point of his character to me is like, it's like if you were such a people pleaser that you went this far, like, because a lot of the last, and I'm like a youngest child, so I relate to it, is like, that is a big part of your role is to like keep the peace in the family and so be people pleasing and so forth. And he even brings up like, I'm a people pleaser in a family of narcissists. They're the sociopaths. They're the narcissists, which also means he might be too, but it's not for lying because he lied, or because he didn't remember it first or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. I didn't
He's the most self-aware, I felt like.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't see Piper as much of like a sociopath as the other ones. But I mean, I guess she did make her family come on this grand journey and lied to them, which is weird. But I don't know. She seemed to have something, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's just the way that Lockie says he's in a family of narcissists, is all I meant, because the narcissist is sociopathic usually if it's the personality disorder kind. But also, exactly. I actually thought about her character too. I was like, how is she that? I was thinking about the part when he's at the pool dying and she just leaves and like, Mina's there. Like no one's really checking on him, even though that would be weird he was doing that. I feel like if he wasn't reading, I feel like they should have thought about it a little longer. Yeah,
it's true. Like should have checked on him. But I also saw a take, and I like this. You see a lot of takes on this show. So Dan Savage, I think, is kind of problematic.
So we'll end with the scene between Chelsea and Rick at breakfast. And that's where shit starts to pop off. So that's going to be great. It's going to be where things are going to start to blow up in everybody's faces and new things will happen for every character, basically. But in the meantime, enjoy your week. We'll just see you next session. No, I'll tell you other things first. We have like things like social media and stuff. Find us on like, first of all, Patreon and help out because it's like $5 for a fucking month. Or we can even give you, and most likely will because you're probably going to be the only one who does it at the time, give you a whole year of free membership because we're doing that for the first 5 or so people that join. Then we're also going to give, $10 a year to ACLU once we get 50 members. Whenever that is, we'll do that. So patreon.com/realitytest, capital RT. And then you also might look up @realitytest in the search bar. We're also on Instagram at Dr. K Pods, at Dr. Ray Pods. We're on TikTok at Dr.realitv, REALITV. We're on YouTube and Facebook at Reality Test Pod. So that's the name of the page on Facebook, and it's at Reality Test Pod in one handle on YouTube. And then email realitycheckpodding@gmail.com.
And please rate, review, subscribe. We are so happy to have you all as listeners. And
come watch our video version.
Watch the videos, join our Patreon. And we will see you next session.
See you next session.